back on the MMA Hour, and we're being joined now live and in living color by the newest member of the Bellator MMA roster. How about this? Benson Smooth Henderson, finally, you joined us in studio. This is so exciting.
Yeah, finally
Welcome.
you guys have me on, so heck, I'm here.
Yes, finally.
I'm here.
You always have a home here. You're over there, picture of you there, picture of you there. Barbarine over here. It's like MMA Lab Day here in this studio.
I like it.
Yes.
I like it. I can dig it.
Well, thank you. You know, it's interesting. We were just looking at that clip. Do you remember that interview? Do you remember that whole week?
Yes, I
You've done a lot of interviews, so obviously it doesn't, come off the top of your head. But what a difference a few years make. You were fighting on Facebook. Crazy, right? Number one contender fight on Facebook, UFC on Fox 1.
I always have a thing with the big guys, with the heavyweights, because they get all the love, they make the most money, and yada, yada, yada. No matter how skilled the little guys are, us little guys, smaller guys, that sort of stuff. It's always the big guys to get all the attention, get all the love, and that sort of stuff. So being co-main event to those big guys, now I get a kick out of it. Being the main event, and then anytime there's heavyweights as co-main events, I'm like, yes, let's fight.
Yeah,
Take that, you heavyweights.
And it was funny because that was the much better fight. You remember the main event lasted like 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Your fight killed it. That's the one that got you the title shot. And we ended on you talking about just being comfortable in the octagon. And somewhat fitting as you go on this new journey now with Bellator, do you think it will take some time to get comfortable, not only in the actual cage, and it's not an octagon anymore, it's a circle essentially, but you're working with new people, different operations. Do you feel like a rookie again?
I wouldn't say a rookie, but definitely a whole new learning curve, getting used to, like you said, people don't realize, I guess, how much of the behind-the-scenes personnel you deal with. And, I said about all the UFC behind-the-scenes guys, they were great and awesome, and I got to know them. I, have a great relationship with a lot of those guys outside the UFC, outside of working. I have, pretty good relationship with a lot of those guys. So now, working with a new company, a whole new slate of people to get to know and learn about and deal with and work with. So that behind the scenes, dealing with them, for right now, I'm going through a whole new learning phase, getting to know new PR people, new social media people, new this guy, new that guy. So for me, it's definitely a learning curve.
Being in the UFC was old hat, but now going through this new experience, do you feel a little more nervous? Like, do you feel like I have to prove to Bellator that I was worth the investment, that I was worth their time, their money? Like, do you think about that sort of thing?
I wouldn't say I have to prove to Bellator that I'm worth it, but definitely for most fighters, for myself, when you reach a certain point, when you get the UFC belt, no matter what you do, whether it's a pickup game of basketball, whether it's going to go train at a gym here in downtown New York City, no matter what I do, no matter where I go, everyone's gonna bring their best. Yeah. If we can play tic-tac-toe, everyone knows how competitive I am. They're going to beat me in tic-tac-toe. I beat Benson in tic-tac-toe. So for me, that's what it's more about. No matter where I go, no matter what I do, everyone is going to bring their best, and I know that. It makes me do that much more. It makes me have to be that much better against Andrey. Man, tough kid. Right now, he's running sprints. Right now, he's getting ready. He's working his butt off harder than he's ever worked his entire life. He's gonna bring his A game. He's having the best training camp his entire life. So for me, that's what I think about. Not about making it worth Bellator to bring me over and how yada yada, that sort of stuff. But I think about whoever I face off against, they're bringing their best. They're making darn sure their training camp, their coaches are doing every little thing they can to give that guy an upper hand, give him the advantage to make him leave that octagon with his hand raised. And it's my job to make sure I work my butt off that much more than them, so that I leave the octagon with my hand raised. But
you still call it the octagon.
I did. Yeah. I had a boo-boo there.
That's trademarked.
Yeah, the cage.
Yeah. So are you kind of like annoyed that you have to even do this stuff? Would you rather be doing sprints somewhere?
I want to say annoyed. You get used to it. I've been doing it for a long time, so doing PR stuff, I'm kind of used to it. I'm not as flamboyant or as some individuals. I may not, be as brash or as cocky or as arrogant, but I've been doing it for a while. I know how to sell fights. I know how to sell some tickets. I'm not going to sell my soul to get extra buys. I'm not going to do this and talk like this so that other people tune in. I'm not going to do that. That's not me. Right. I'm not going to be fake. I'm going to be the same person on camera, off camera. I don't need extra buys, extra likes, extra views that badly. I'm not going to sell my soul for that price. nice. But I've been doing this for a while now, so I'm used to doing the PR stuff and selling the fights and letting guys know when and where it's going to be. Make sure you tune in, all that sort of stuff.
So the last time you were on this show, it's when you announced to the world that you had signed with Bellator. Although you kind of outscooped us on your own website, but I won't hold you.
That was my guy.
Is he here? You came with like 40 guys. I'm wondering if he's
not
one of them.
here.
Jesus.
That was one of my other guys. I
totally outscooped us.
Emailed it to him. I told him, hey, release this after a said time, and he released it when the first thing he did in the morning when he got it. So,
I mean, really?
Yeah.
Does he not read his email?
Yeah, he didn't read all the way through. He read the beginning. Hey, put this up.
Yeah.
But he didn't read the end of it where I said, make sure you do it after.
No hard feelings.
The Ariel Helwani show. I can break the news.
Totally killed me. Anyway, and then no one gave us the credit, but that's not what I'm about. What I'm wondering is, when you were on the show, you didn't talk about your next fight. You didn't know about it. You kept that close to your vest. Why 170? And why Koreshkov? Because initially when this news came out, everyone was talking Will Brooks. Everyone wanted to see that fight, but you went in a different direction. Why?
I told Bellator after we signed and it was official, okay, you're done. We signed the actual paperwork. When do you want to fight? Who do you want to fight? I said, I want to fight tomorrow. I want to fight as soon as possible. Like, let's get me inside the cage and let me do what I do best. You know, you guys bring the fans, bring the cameras, make sure you're there. But you know, I want to hurry up. I want to get this show on the road. You know, and they said, okay, cool. Well, you can have the 70-pound title in April, or you can have the 55-pound title, and it'll be a little bit later on in fall. I said, hey, as soon as possible. I want to fight right away, as soon as possible. So they said, okay, well, it'll be April at 170. I said, sure, no problem.
Honestly, did you know who Andrey Koreshkov was? Be honest. Be honest.
I was not exactly aware of who Andrey Koreshkov was. I did know there was a Russian guy who had the belt that had beat Douglas Lima.
Yeah.
But I didn't know who he was or anything else, particular about him. But I know a whole lot more about him now.
You know him now.
Yep.
After watching him, studying his game and all that, where do you put, considering the people you fought as of late, the Masvidals of the world, the Thatches of the world, the Cerrones of the world, where do you put him? Is he below these guys? Is he above him? What do you think? That's
tough to say because so much of what we do is based off comparison. So you see this guy against a opponent you faced off of before. This guy faced this guy who faced this guy. That sort of like MMA math type of thing, know. But because he is doesn't have a whole wealth of he has 18-1, so he has a lot of fights, but I don't have anything really to compare him to, so we'll find out. I'm not sure. I don't know how I would rank him compared to other guys because I haven't seen him face off against common opponents, so I'm not, to be honest, I couldn't say.
The fact that you're going from an 8-sided cage to a circle, does that play into your preparation at all?
No.
You don't use the cage, the angles and all that to your advantage?
I definitely try to use the angles of the octagon to my advantage, You
don't have that liberty now. You don't have that luxury, I should say.
Yeah, now not having that, I imagine it won't be too much problem. Like, it'll be more of a circling if the guys are elusive or want to dance away, but Andre's going to walk forward. I'm going to walk forward. We're going to see who the better man is. So I don't imagine there'll be too much of an angle game in this fight.
Has it, there's been a couple of cases recently where people have fallen out of UFC fights on, like with a few days notice. And I keep getting tweets like, oh, you know who would have stepped up here? Benson Henderson. Have you been getting those as well?
I've been getting quite a few of them, yes.
Do you smile when that happens?
It's nothing I can do now, but yeah, just smile and laugh and nod and pretty much agree.
Yeah.
You're right. That would be an interesting fight. Yes, I probably would have taken it. Yes, I probably would have got my hand raised, but what are you going to do? It's what's said is said, what's done is done, so.
But I feel like you started to really ramp up as far as that mindset is concerned. Once you started to, you saw the light at the end of the tunnel and you wanted to expedite your contract, right? So you weren't always really that way.
No, I think I was always that way. But when you're on the path to a title, and then when you're defending your title, you can't take short notice fights.
Sure.
When you are going to get the belt and you're facing the number 3 guy, and then you beat that guy, then you're 2 fights away or 1 fight away from a title shot, or yada yada yada.
Yeah.
You can't necessarily take me out of that fight and I'll fight this guy. You need me to fight this guy right away. It doesn't quite work out that way. And then when you're defending the belt, you don't really have the choice. You fight whoever they present in front of you, and you can say yes, and that's pretty much it. So, but I think I was that way pretty much for my whole career. It's okay, I want to fight. I want to stay busy. Luckily, thankfully, in most of my career after my fights, I'm not too injured. I'm not too beat up. I'm not too sore. So why would I not want to fight as much as possible? And after not having the belt. they needed my services. I said, yeah, sure, I'm your guy. Hit me up anytime you guys need somebody. I'm ready to go. 5 rounds, let's go. Do it, no problem. Main event, elevation, no problem. Sure, let's do it. But I wasn't able to really do that until after I didn't have the belt.
So the belt was almost holding you back
from fighting more often.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. As you know, you've become sort of the poster boy of free agency in our sport, and it's interesting because this is the biggest story in MMA. It's going to get bigger. More fighters are talking about it. I think it's fascinating, just as a sports fan. And I think sometimes, and let's be honest, the UFC in particular, they view this as a negative. But you're a football fan. You like sports. I use this example often. Like Carmelo Anthony is one of my favorite players on the Knicks. When he tested the free agency waters, I didn't take it as an insult. The Knicks didn't take it as an insult. They played the game. They got him back. All's well and good. Let's move on. But in our sport, it's different and new, and it's like personal. Like if you're not with us, you're against us. That sort of thing. But what's funny is when people are talking about it, they go through the list. They talk about Phil Davis. They talk about Josh Thompson. That's not true. That's inaccurate. You're the first guy to really do it. Those guys were coming off losses. Yes. They weren't extended contracts. Yes. You tested the waters. You're coming off wins. You're really the first guy. Are you comfortable with this idea that you are kind of a pioneer, that you led the charge, that you ignited this flame?
Yeah, I think definitely for sure bringing up Phil and Josh and them not having a contract extension offered to them is definitely a good point. Yeah. Yeah, that's the way it is. But me being on a 2-fight win streak, 2 bigger wins, more notable, so to speak, or whatever, moving up weight class.
Main events,
for sure. I think it has helped me, helped the transition into free agency. And like how you mentioned free agents, not just within one organization. So this is one organization. UFC is just an organization.
Yep.
The sport is MMA. But comparing it to basketball or NBA or NFL even is not exactly
fair
comparison. But when you compare it to like say international football stars, soccer stars, moving from one organization to another organization, the English Premier League is one of the biggest, best leagues in the world, But when you have one guy move from the English Premier League to Major League Soccer, that's 2 different organizations. The sport's the same, soccer, international football, but they're moving to different organizations. That I think is a little more of a fair comparison between,
Yeah.
I think for me, moving from the UFC organization, definitely for sure, you can't argue the biggest MMA organization on the planet, moving to a rival company, Bellator, who is, the number 2 MMA organization on the planet. It was a big deal. It's a very big wave, Do
you read a lot about this stuff, like when Beckham came over and stuff? And I don't want to overstate this, but does this fascinate you? Even going back to Curt Flood and baseball and, free agency, like, have you now become more interested in this subject because it affected you?
I think definitely because of my personal involvement in the correlations, the parallels that I see between the two. I did my research into the international soccer stars and how much, how big their deals were, how much it helped them, how much it hurt the other organizations, was better for some organizations. Even talking about now I'm gonna forget, but I believe it was Steve Young moving over from the
USFL
to the USFL
to the NFL. Yeah, of
like,
course.
That sort of a move. Like also another big deal. 2 different organizations, but the same sport, the sport of football, but 2 different organizations. So I think when I saw those parallels in my personal involvement, I definitely read a lot more into it for sure.
And you're getting a lot of fighters call you up secretly saying, "Yo, what was this process like?"
Yeah, for sure. I've had a couple of UFC
big names,
title holders,
current
belt holders hit
There's
me
not
up.
That many of them. Let's go through the list. Let's go through the
But a ton of fighters, guys who are still on the UFC roster. But I mean, but people act as if it's bad to have a conversation. It's bad to talk. It's not bad to talk. No. It's not. If someone's gonna hit me up and call me up and say, "Hey, what was the process like, and what all did it involve? Was Dana mad? Was Lorenzo mad?" And then you gotta explain to them, no, like it's a business. If there's one thing Lorenzo Fertitta understands, it's business. Dude's a billionaire.
You're right.
With a B.
Yeah.
Billion. Yeah. He's a smart dude. He's made a ton of money. He understands business. He understands you making business decisions, what's best for you and your family. Based off, what's best for you and your family. He understands those sort of decisions,
It is also important to note, to be as fair as possible here, some people have decided to stay with the UFC. Some have gone from Bellator to the UFC. So it's not an exodus, if you will. That's the healthiest. That's what we want in this sport, right? Where guys can just fight out their contract and just be the sort of decider where they fight next.
Yep.
That's really what this is all about, right?
And that's what you want. You want to have options. You want to say, oh, hey, well, this company's going to give you this much money. They're going to promote you this sort of way. They're going to do this for you. They're going to do that for you. This company's going to take care of you in this way. They're going to give you this so much money. This company's going to give you money on the front end. This company's going to give you money on the back end. Yada yada yada. But you want options. You want to see what your name, what your brand, how much it brings to the table. For fighters, our time span for how long we can fight and make decent money. I can't fight for as long as you can do your job here. You know?
Sure.
So I have to take advantage of the limited number of years I have.
Speaking of which, how old are you? Are you 33 yet?
32.
32. When are you turning 33?
Coming up, couple months.
November.
November. Yeah.
So in 7 months. So you're gonna have to retire in 7 months because you are a man of your word.
I am, but remember I said when I was 33 in however many months. So I could be 33 in 11 months.
I don't believe it. Why even say that? So that people like me can now bust your chops over it. Why?
The real reason, to be frank with you, was I will end up joining the military branch. I've always felt that pretty strong civic duty. Us as Americans, we need to do a better job. Period. We are not very strong in that sort of patriotic sense.
You're gonna leave everything and go join the army? Reserve.
Yeah, but whichever military branch is most convenient with what I can bring to the table and what I can involve. Luke Air Force Base is in Phoenix local, so it might be the Air Force Reserve that I join or whatever.
Can you do both though? Like Tim Kennedy does both.
Yeah.
So will you want to do just one? Like when you do that, will you leave MMA?
I was planning on originally. I thought I would have to leave MMA, but I've talked to a few recruiters, and they're the ones who let me know. Oh no, there's age limitations on joining up, but the age limitations, there's special dispensations or whatever, how that's pronounced, whatever that's called, for joining any military branch. So like, you don't have to be 33 because the cutoff age for certain branches is.
So that's why you said 33.
Yes. Yeah, it had to be like 34 or before I turned 34 to enlist.
Okay.
So yeah, it had to be 33 before I could join on. So
how long have you felt this way that you needed to do this?
For the longest time. Like kids always say all the time, like, I was going to join the Marines, I was going to join the Army, I was going to do this, I was going to do that. Like every 22-year-old says that. I was going to join the military, I was going to join the Navy, I was going to do whatever, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
They go through whatever steps to do. It's something that I've always felt. When I'm older, when I'm 50, I want to tell my kids, I want to tell my grandkids, hey, you have a duty to your country. You have a civic duty to your country to serve, to give back to the country. What have you done for your country besides, eat the food and use electricity? What have you done, and what have you brought to your country? So that's something I felt pretty strongly about. And I'm finding out there's other ways to go about doing it, but you can I can do it while still having an MMA career.
So it's like that famous John F. Kennedy line: "Ask not what your country could do for you, ask what you can do for your country."
Absolutely.
You should be the poster boy. You should be like the guy that they.
I'm not quite sure how I feel. I talked to a few of the higher up recruiters for a couple different branches, and I'm not quite sure how I would feel being used as a face for whatever.
You just want to do your thing.
I just want to do my duty.
Yeah.
If my duty is fixing trucks for 8 hours a day,
so you don't want to necessarily go to combat overseas, things like that.
I'd be open to it. I talked to my wife about it. If
you have a kid now.
Yes, yeah. If that's a possibility, if that's a duty that that branch of the military feels I'm best fit for, sure, no problem. Is it something that you want to do?
Sure.
I'm not 21. I'm not 18. I don't want to go to war and go do this. Like, nah, I'm old man. I don't need to prove myself and go to war and all that sort of stuff. But if that's what is called, if that's what it takes,
When 9/11 happened, this city was hit, incredibly hard. Did you feel that, because you heard this from a lot of Americans back then, that they wanted to sign up, they were never thinking. Did that affect you like that?
It did. Probably not as much as some people make it out to sound,
Yeah.
But for sure it affected me. For sure it's still in the back of my head. The 9/11 thing, terrible, not good, bad. But I wouldn't say that was like a strong pusher of me making this
Were you
decision.
feeling that way before?
I felt that would be even younger, yeah.
So why didn't you ever explain the 33 Like you would say, I want to retire when I'm 33, but you never actually explain why.
Again, just more of a private person.
Okay.
I don't really, I didn't want to like, hey, I'm going to go do this. And then what if I never did it? Everyone's like, oh, you said you're going to go do this and you never did that, blah, blah.
Fair enough.
So again, a little bit more of a private person. But having talked to a few more of the recruiters, the different branches of the military, knowing now that I have a couple more options and how to get it done, and they're a little bit more leeway with it, I feel that I can do it, and I'm not nervous about and if it doesn't happen, if I try to join a military branch and it end up being too old or too this, or I need to go over here and I can't do that or whatever reason, no big deal. Also, I try.
What if they tell you to cut your hair?
The thing with
they're gonna tell you that, right?
Yes. The thing with the hair is, this is a secret again, Please? But more of a private person, but whatever. But after I retire from fighting, when I'm done fighting, I'm cutting the hair off.
Really?
And I'm rock hats all the time, so no one recognizes me, because then
you're tired of all this.
It is what it is. It's cool, but I'm not a public person. I'm not like a super outgoing personality. And I walk in the room, I need everyone to know I'm in the room. I'm not one of those guys.
Right.
I'm not that person. I'm not going to sell my soul to be that person, so I get a few more likes and I get a couple of Instagram followers and this and that. I'm not that individual. I'm not that person. Some people are. Some guys are that way. Sure, go ahead, be you, do you, no problem. That's okay. I'm just not that way. I don't want to be that way either.
But it's interesting to hear you say that you're going to cut the hair after you fight, because a lot of people would say that the hair hurts you when you fight.
Some people could say that, but those people, how many of them have actually stepped inside of a cage and fought themselves?
Some fighters, though, have said, like, I remember KJ Noon said it was a big mistake when he fought Nick Diaz. The hair was in his face.
Oh, was it?
But that was, whatever. Everyone's different. I remember when you fought Anthony the second time, you braided the hair and something just felt off. And never again, right? We're never braiding the hair. You had the beard, you came out with the black belt, and you braided the hair. The whole universe was going in a different direction that day.
That night was just not a good night in general, so probably not braided hair again. Yeah.
When's the last time you got a haircut?
2006.
You're kidding?
Yeah, 2006.
What?
2006? My senior year, right before getting ready for wrestling season to officially get started. So probably like November 2006, around there.
No one has, not even like a trim, nothing.
No, nothing. I wrestle every day. We practice so much. I have huge clumps of my hair. The gym calls them, everybody at the gym calls them Benson bunnies. I have huge clumps of my hair throughout the gym.
Wow.
Like, oh yeah, you can see I was rolling around earlier today right over in that corner because my huge clump of my hair is right over there. So yeah.
But why did you even let it grow?
I always cut it when I was younger. I always shaved it. I'd wait like a month or two, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever. And then I would shave it because I don't like dealing with my hair. I don't like gel or doing this or doing that. I'm not like a pretty boy trimming down. I don't need to sit there in front of a camera or in front of a mirror for 30 minutes doing your hair. So I'd always just shave it. And eventually, it was always shaved for most of my whole life because of wrestling. And I would just shave it, wait a little while, shave it, and then I wanted to grow it out. But the same thing applies. Like, I don't want to deal with it. I hop out of the shower, I shake my head a few times, and I'm out the door. That's it. I don't put any product in it. I don't mess around with it. I don't do this. But I just wanted to change things up, I guess.
When you got into wrestling, was it all to become an MMA fighter? Like, was this the plan all along for you?
No. When I started wrestling, it was just purely for the love and enjoyment of competition. I love to compete. Wrestling was awesome. I was too small. I played basketball in 7th grade and 8th grade.
You don't have basketball skills. Let's
listen to this guy. We're gonna find out. I'm gonna film it too. We're gonna get.
I asked my guy in New York to bring in a net and we could have a free throw competition, but they didn't help me out. I wanted to do. It's gonna be live on pay-per-view one day. Maybe Viacom. Maybe Spike can air it.
We'll set something up. I'm gonna talk to Bellator. We're gonna set something up.
Fair enough.
But I was too short. 7th and 8th grade, going into high school, didn't make the team, and I was bummed out and sad.
Shocker, didn't make the team.
I was like 4'7" at the time.
Really?
Too. Yeah.
Wow.
Didn't hit my growth spurt until after like my freshman year in college.
Okay.
But anyways, I was like not playing basketball anymore, wandering around, and then my freshman year, the wrestling coach say, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was like, "No, nothing. I'm just kind of hanging out." And basketball started, and I didn't make the team. So he's like, "Oh, well, cool. Grab your workout stuff and come in the wrestling room." I was like, "All right." And I grabbed my stuff, went to the wrestling room, and I've been wrestling ever since.
You knew nothing about wrestling?
No, yeah, nothing. Started my freshman year. Yeah.
You didn't even watch it?
No, didn't watch it, didn't practice, didn't do anything else. Like a lot of kids start when they're like 5 years old or 6 years old. I started my freshman year, joined the wrestling team. I liked it. It was kind of cool. Yeah.
You said this is cool.
Yeah,
it's totally different than basketball. This is like a one-on-one thing.
No, I liked it a lot. I dug it a lot. The practices were hard. They were tough. I got beat up, but I beat up some other guys also at the same time. Like it was fun. I liked it. I dug it right away. I was pretty good at it, right away also. Yeah. So I'm sure that helped quite a bit.
When did you start thinking about fighting?
That was way later. Like after I graduated college. Like Matt Hughes had the belt at the time, so a lot of like college wrestlers were thinking about MMA. Yep. There's no NFL for college wrestlers. You wrestle in college. After that, you become a high school coach.
Right.
But there's no organization for wrestlers, college wrestlers to go into. There's no Major League Baseball. There's no National Basketball Association. So for wrestlers, when MMA came about as a viable way to make good money as a professional athlete, a lot of wrestlers took right to it, and then that's when I started thinking about, well, maybe I'll give it a shot. I don't know, fighting. I'll give it a shot. Then why not? No problem.
So when's the first time you remember thinking this is something I'm going to go for?
I think after I had a fight on a whim, a dare, a bunch of dudes sitting around after a hard red flag practice. I was coaching. It was the year after I graduated at Dana. I was coaching. And we had a red flag practice, which means like a really hard, tough practice.
Okay.
Got all the guys sitting around. It was like, Ariel would do great in the cage. He'd beat somebody up. He'd do good. Yachty would do great. He'd murder somebody in the cage. He's mean. I got on to meet Henderson. They're like,
wow.
We don't know Henderson. I'm not the toughest of individuals.
Yeah.
And I'm not Billy Badass, not like that. I was like, screw you guys. I could go in there. I could beat somebody up. Well, come on, that's jacked up, guys. And then everyone called me out on it, and I had to back it up. I had to prove it. So then, like 3-4 hours later, I was in downtown Omaha, Sokol South, and I was inside of a cage, and some dude was
get out of here.
Yeah.
3-4 hours later.
Yeah. Yeah, it was back in the day when you could go somewhere and you could get fight. They would call it guys from the crowd. Who wants to fight tonight?
What?
Yeah,
you had no experience.
No experience. No.
Did you win?
Corey Kleinbell was the guy's name. Corey Kleinbell.
Wow. You won.
Yeah, I
Is this on your pro record?
I think so. No, amateur.
Okay.
Yeah, amateur. No, I took the guy down. Thankfully, he was trying to knock my head off, but I ended up taking him down. I just did this a couple times, closed my eyes. The referee pulled me off, and
wow,
the crowd went crazy.
First round TKO.
Yeah. Oh, I just took him down and I did this, and then he just turtled up.
Less than a minute.
I think maybe a little over a minute, probably.
Wow. But so there was no weigh-in, no nothing. You just showed up to a place. What was it, like a bar or something?
Sokol sounds like an auditorium type thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that is amazing. And so you win that fight, and then you say,
"Yeah, I won the fight." I was like, "I'll give it a shot. I'll try it. We'll see."
But if they don't dare you 4 hours prior, this doesn't happen.
No, I'm not gonna go into a cage and some guy's gonna try and beat me up. No way.
Was that fight in a cage or ring?
That one was in a cage.
That is wild.
Old school cage too. No plastic coating around the cage.
Oh my!
It was just like the actual cage. So your back tested. You're like, oh
yeah.
I don't want to get up against that.
I wouldn't know how that feels. No. I'm like, yeah, of course. So do you ever wonder if they didn't dare you, what you'd be doing now?
At the time, I had just got hired to the Omaha Police Department and the Denver Police Department.
Okay.
And I was deciding between the two, which one I wanted to go to. Seeing how much each one paid, the cost of living for each city, where I'd live at, deciding between the two. So if I was not fighting, I was going to be a police officer in Omaha or Denver, and then live a good life.
So that first fight happens. How long? So what do you do afterwards? Do you find it? Do you say, okay, I'm going to become an MMA fighter now and drop everything?
After that first fight, it was like not a joke of a fight, but that first fight where I was woefully unprepared and had zero training.
Did you even have a mouth guard, a mouthpiece?
I did have a mouthpiece.
You did, okay. Yeah. Did you have a cup?
Probably not. I don't think I even had a cup.
What were you wearing? Just like random shorts?
Wrestling shorts.
Wrestling shorts, okay.
Our team's wrestling shorts.
That is amazing. Okay, so then what do you do?
What did I do then? I think I hit up one of my friends, Lisa Bowling, the head coach
of course,
of
Colorado.
Yep. And He wrestled with me. We wrestled together at Dana College. He graduated the year before.
Okay.
But I knew he was big into MMA. He was like the tough guy. He was like the guy who everyone say, oh yeah, at least he would do great. He'd murder everybody. Blah blah. But I hit him up, told him I was thinking about trying fighting and giving it a shot and that sort of stuff. He's like, oh well, I know a guy here in Denver, Colorado. Alvin Robinson. His coach is John Crouch. If you're thinking about it, if you want to take it seriously, once you come on down and see how you like it, try it. And then I end up moving down to Denver.
This whole thing, I feel like you're glossing over something here because it goes from a dare to you changing your life and calling someone. How does that happen? Do your buddies on the wrestling mat say like, what kind of monster did we just create here? Like all this because they tested your manhood. Maybe I should rethink my basketball here.
Pretty much. No, I think it was just I was young still, like 22, 20. I just graduated, and I still had a strong desire to compete. I still wanted to, do something. I spent, how long wrestling and getting ready and getting beat up. So I wanted to use those wrestling skills that I developed. And, your chance to be a professional athlete. How many times do you get a chance to pursue something as a professional athlete? Guys, live their whole lives trying to be a professional athlete. So I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. Let's do it. No problem.
When did you go to Arizona?
I did a year in Denver with John Crouch, Alvin Kid Robinson, those guys. Got beat up a whole lot. This was how bad it was with Alvin. We had only the 4-ounce small skinny MMA gloves. We didn't wear shin pads. We didn't wear headgear.
Wow.
And we did our sparring sessions inside of a boxing ring and no shin pads. We just I got the tar beat out of me by Alvin. Alvin beat me up pretty bad. And he was one of those freak guys who doesn't get tired at all. So he would want to do like 7-8 rounds.
Oh my.
And I was his only training partner at the time. Like he beat up some of the jiu-jitsu students, like they would put their gloves on and they'd go in there and try and help Alvin as much as possible get better. But then I was only one of his only other like real training partners who would be there for him whenever he wanted. So I would do like 6-7 rounds with him and he would just beat the tar out of me with the little small MMA gloves, no shin pads, getting beat up, not knowing what's going on. I was like, oh, this isn't fun. This isn't fun.
But you kept coming back.
But I kept coming back, and after a year in Denver doing that with Alvin, there was a guy who knew John Crouch who lived in Phoenix. He had just opened up a brand new state-of-the-art gym. He wanted a MMA gym, a gym focused on MMA, and he wanted the professional fight team. He knew that John had Alvin Kid Robinson, who was going to be a big star in the UFC, a couple other younger guys. So he flew out those guys to Phoenix. And then I tagged along. I was like, hey, you guys all leaving the Phoenix? Like, what's going on? Like, I heard someone say you guys are moving to Phoenix. Can I go? I want to come too. And so I tagged along and we went with him out to Phoenix, and I cleaned the mats, mopped the mats, cleaned the walls, took the garbage out, cleaned the toilets for almost 2 years. I did that in Phoenix at the lab.
Wow. Yeah. And are you fighting during this period?
Yeah. During the time I was training full time at the lab, I'd take morning class. Do have another private with one of my boxing coaches or my kickboxing coach. During the lunch break, a couple hours lunch break, I would clean the lab, take out the garbage, all that sort of stuff. Come back for team practice 3 to 5, and then I would stay at night and take the night classes, jiu-jitsu classes with John Crouch.
And are you taking fights as well? Or are you just training at this point?
No, I had a few fights early on. I had a few fights, yeah.
One of my favorite, the relationship that you have with John is like one of those all-time great relationships. It reminds me of like the one that DJ has with his coach, right? I mean, there's just certain relationships, Connor and his coach, John Cabin, that you just feel like regardless, these two are going to be together forever, right?
Yeah.
And forever is a big word, I know. But there's no better, there's some great clips online. There's no better clip than the one where he comes up to you. It's either at the beginning of practice or end of practice.
Is at the end of a sparring session, and Alvin had just beaten me up with like 2-3 rounds, and then I did another round with somebody else, and I did another round with somebody else, and that's when he came up to us.
For those that don't know, this is the clip. Here it is. There it is, January 5th, 2008. You heard it here first. This is from John Crouch's YouTube channel.
You look awesome today. You are going to be a superstar in this sport. Remember, I was the first one that said that. Hey, I mean it. Yes. I think you're going to be phenomenal. You're going to be a household name if you want to be. If you keep going doing the things you're doing, you're going to beat everybody else.
Stay with you guys.
Everybody. It's you, though, man. I mean, you got a big heart, you're a great guy, and you're a great fighter. I'm enjoying every step of this way.
Man, that legitimately gives me goosebumps. You too?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good one. That one tugs at the heartstrings for me.
It's amazing. That was more than 8 years ago. Do you remember that vividly? That moment?
Not vividly, but I've seen it.
How many times? When's the last time you saw that clip?
Oh, a couple of years at least, I'd say.
To have your coach and someone with his background say that to you, and then come back and say it again, and have that belief in you. That day you must have felt like you were on cloud nine, right? To have someone have your back like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm a big believer in John Crouch. He's a proven winner. He coached like state champions and band and like interpretive dance band type stuff. But
wow.
He's a great guy, great eye for details. So I'm a big believer in John Crouch, and for him to place that kind of faith in me, for him to say that, go out of his way, definitely, absolutely meant.
Did you believe it that day? What he was saying that you're going to be a superstar and a household name?
It was just another day of hard work. Kind of one of those penny in the bank days. I got beat up a little bit. I did some beating up with some other guys,
But not specifically that day. At that point in your life, did you believe you'd be a household name and make a living and be able to provide for a family by fighting and all that?
Household name, no. Did I think I had enough? I didn't think I had enough, but I knew I would work my butt off enough to be in the UFC. At that time, I think 2008, I knew that I would be in the UFC and that I could work my butt off enough to get to the UFC for sure.
I remember when you got to WEC, and it was amazing. You could hardly see in your fights, right?
Yeah, I was. You saw those glasses, right?
Yeah,
I was blind as the bat. I could barely see.
How did you pass the commission tests? How were you able to pass? Like, don't you have eye exams before these fights?
I might have fibbed once or twice.
Oh my gosh!
And see the letters real quick before I took my glasses off and then did the test and just kind of spot off some letters, and luckily I got.
I remember talking to you about it. This is like back in the Versus days. You were saying that you would see double, triple of your opponent.
No, mostly I want to see double, triple. They would just be very blurry. I was
blurry,
nearsighted, farsighted, nearsighted, so I couldn't see far away. So my guys would be super blurry. I couldn't read any tattoos on them or anything like that.
Right.
They'd be really blurry. But thankfully, for most of my fights early on in my career, the gloves were either bright red or bright blue, so that would help me a lot to see, distinguish like where a punch was coming. I would just see a red blur coming at me and try and get out of the way.
Wow.
So that helped me the most, having the bright gloves actually.
So if you were fighting in the UFC with the black gloves, that would have been tough.
It might have been pretty tough for me. I might have got hit a little bit more.
Why didn't you think to change this, to fix this? Like you're fighting against a man who's trying to knock your head off, and he's blurry. That didn't freak you out?
I just think I was just used to it because of wrestling, Like I wrestled most of my whole life with and it was like that. It was fine, no problem. I learned to adjust and making it oh well, I lost that match. I couldn't see him from far away, so when he did a super duck on me, I couldn't see it. I didn't make excuses. I need to get better. I need to have a better reaction. I need to react quicker than that, or whatever the case was, So I didn't make a big deal about it. It's just that's the way it is. If that's the way it is, that's the way it is. No problem. Get better, learn.
But now
better.
you're good.
Now I'm good, yeah. Now I'm better.
When did you fix it?
2008, 2009, I had PRK surgery.
Wow.
Got it fixed. Now I have better than 20/20 vision.
Was it that first fight? Do you remember who it was against where you were perfect and you were like, wow.
I had good eye vision in the first fight.
What was I missing?
I don't remember who that was against. I'm not sure.
It wasn't WC though, right? Because I remember this all happening.
It had to be WC, yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember thinking to yourself, "This is so much better. I can actually see the opponent"? Was it that big of a difference?
I remember the first sparring session after the surgery.
Yeah,
because I had the eye surgery. Then I went on vacation because I needed the time off. So I timed it to make sure I had the surgery. Then went on vacation, and when I came back, going in sparring rounds, I was like, man, this is awesome. This is great. I can freaking see the guy from across the cage. This is wonderful.
What a luxury.
Yeah.
Was that a really special time for you, that WC time? Because I felt like all of you guys, in particular that division, which for a while was the only division that was being shared by the UFC. Yeah. Everyone slept on you guys. Everyone thought that you were a lesser tier talent. Did you feel like, you wanted to fight Cerrone and Pettis, but you kind of were like a fraternity in a weird way, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like being the younger brother, so to speak, of the UFC, we definitely felt we all had a chip on our shoulders.
Yeah.
We all shared that same chip. It was the same chip that was on my shoulders, was on Donald's shoulders, was on Anthony's shoulders, was on Danny Castillo's shoulders, was on everyone's shoulders. Anthony Andrequani's. Like, we all had that same chip. We all shared that load. Oh, how do you think you do against UFC fighters? Like, who do you think we're training with every day? We train with the UFC fighters. I do pretty well against most of the UFC fighters. I think I would do pretty well. So getting that questions over and over and over, it definitely left a chip on our shoulders.
Even like Josh Thompson, I remember, called you out and was like, who's Benson Henderson? You remember that?
Yes.
You remember that at a press conference?
Yeah.
Now you're in the same company.
Yep.
That was. I mean, of course, you fought him, but that was like that. It always felt like you guys weren't getting the respect that you deserved, and of course, they merged. Do you remember when you found out that like this was going to be your opportunity finally? Do you remember how you reacted to that?
I do. I that part, I actually remember exactly where I was.
Wow.
I was just got off morning practice. Was at home, had lunch, took a nap, and I woke up to like 3 or 4 missed calls from my manager at the time, like a text message, give me a call right away, and a couple other missed calls from a few other guys. And I called them back, and that's when they announced it, merged over, big news, yada yada yada. You're in the UFC, so that's how I found out.
Now, this was right before you were going to fight Anthony in the final show.
Yep.
Like, this all happened within a span of a few months. And not only that, it was in your adopted home state now of Arizona.
Yep.
There was a lot of pressure on you that night.
I guess so. I guess you could say that, a lot of pressure. But there's a lot of pressure on me for every fight, and I place the most pressure on myself more than anybody else, more than any other, stipulation this, and this is on the line, first time this, first time that, last event this ever, last time that ever, blah, blah. I place the most pressure on myself to get my hand raised. There's no one else on this planet who puts as much pressure on themselves than I do on myself to be successful, to get my hand raised, to do the right things. I walk by home at my house. I walk by and there's a piece of garbage on the ground, and I just walk by it, leave it there. Oh, no big deal. And I I should be a better person. My wife Maria deserves better than that. For me to just walk around and leave garbage on the ground, and I turn around and pick it up and I throw that away. I place that pressure to be a better person, to be a good person, to do the right things, not just in the cage, but outside the cage, on myself more than anybody else could ever come close to putting that kind of pressure on me.
Sometimes is it too much? Do you feel like you put too much pressure on yourself?
I think pressure is something that weak women cannot take. So is there ever too much? No, there's not ever too much, but it can.
You hesitate.
It can be. It can get
suffocating, right?
Yeah, it can get overwhelming after a while. After having, 3-4 years of the top of your game, the best in the world, just that over time, it never goes away, and there's more pressure, and then there's more pressure. The next year, there's more pressure and more pressure. It can definitely be a little bit overwhelming, but that's when you have to really center yourself and then rely on who or what you're going to rely on. For me, I have, our Lord God to rely on. I draw on Him for strength. For me personally, some people want to rely on other medications or drugs or this or that, and go ahead, no problem. But definitely after it gets to a point where it's so overwhelming, you need something else to rely on to help you through those, hard moments. So
you must have felt this was the moment to come into the UFC as champion. Right?
Yeah.
You wanted that.
For sure.
You wanted to have that belt.
I wanted to have the belt. I wanted to go in, and I wanted to show everybody, oh, yeah, we're not good enough. We're not the same caliber as these other guys. Let me show you.
Yeah.
Let me show you.
And you were going to get the unification fight.
Yep.
As a result, that was all announced. Yep. Does that still eat at you?
I wouldn't say eats at me. I think I've done a good job, a better job as I've gotten older in my career and older as a person to mature and be a good enough person, be a better person to where I can let things go. I can let it slide. I'm still not happy about it. I'm not happy about the result. Any of my 5 losses, I'm not happy about any of those 5 losses. But can I let them go? Can I grow from it? Can I be a better person? Can I make the better decisions so that result does not ever happen again? Can I do that? I've come to the point where I can do that. But yeah, it's still not exactly happy about coming over to the UFC, not having the WC belt around my waist.
Yeah, man, I'll never forget being at that post-fight press conference. and you showed up. And I was talking about this earlier with Rashad Evans. You know, I have so much respect for the fighters who lose in the main event and show up to that press conference and face the music, because you know deep down we're the last people you want to talk to. You hate us, and you're like, shut the F up with these stupid questions. And you started to get emotional in front of all of us. That must have been. You remember that? I do.
I do remember that. That was a hard time. But I think in those hard times is when you have to show the kind of man you really are. That exact hard time. I've had 5 of those hard times. That's when you have to show the kind of character you are, the kind of person you are. And it's not fun. It doesn't feel good. It's sad. It's sucky.
Yeah.
There's how many people on the planet who know what it feels like to lose a world title. It doesn't feel good, you know.
Yeah.
But those hard times is what leads to hopefully more glory later on, you know.
Rashad said a very I don't know if you saw his fight or any of his comments afterwards on Saturday. He lost on Saturday. He said he's embarrassed, and it's a very tough thing to hear that from a fighter who's like a superhero, a former champion. Yeah. To hear that's something that like a little kid would say, you know, that he's so vulnerable in that moment. My heart went out to him. I really felt bad for the guy. And when he started to say that, like, I just can't. It's not working for me like it used to. It's not as easy.
Yeah.
Do you fear that?
I don't fear it. I think there comes a time with everybody, with any professional athlete. There comes a time when you get to that point where it doesn't work for you the way it used to. It's sad, but it's true. I think you as a man, you as a woman, you as a person, and how you deal with that, because it is going to happen. It's a matter of fact. We are all going to die on this planet. How are you going to deal with that? How are you going to react to that? Above and beyond, more than like winning or losing, you're going to die. We're all going to die. How are you going to act in the meantime between them? Are you going to be a good person? Are you going to be a not good person? Are you make the right decisions? Or you make bad decisions? People always say the silly analogy. Oh, what if you knew you were going to die 24 hours from now? What would you do? Like, well, you do know you're going to die. You know for a fact you are going to, it might be 70 years, it might be 50 years, but how are you going to act in that meantime? What are you going to do? What kind of person are you going to be? So for professional athletes nearing the end of their career, it happens. It sucks. It's sad. It is heartbreaking, but it happens to all professional athletes, not just fighters. It happens to tennis players. It happens to golfers. It happens to professional figure skaters.
Yeah.
It sucks. And hopefully you are a good enough person to have stuff set up, segue into something else, and have success doing whatever the next thing is, But you can't be a professional athlete. Being a professional athlete, there's a limited number of years. Fighters is perhaps the smallest limited number of years. Being a professional golfer, you can do it for maybe 25 years, something like that, But at the end of the 25 years, you need to have something else you can segue into.
Where's the toothpick right now? You have one?
Not right now.
Why not?
No.
Why would you not have it in an interview and have it in a fight? Can we stop with the toothpick thing?
I know.
It makes
silly.
me anxious.
Actually, you know what? To be honest, now that I had my son, and someone said to me, "Oh, your son's gonna see your toothpick, and he's always gonna have a toothpick."
Yes.
I was like,
that's it.
That's right. He's gonna be like 5 years old, 7 years old, and he's gonna run around the house with a fucking toothpick in his mouth. That's insane.
So
Why
are we
would
done
you
with
do
it?
that?
Yes.
I'm like, no, son, no
makes
toothpicks.
me so uncomfortable.
No toothpicks.
So you're done?
Hopefully, I need to be a better person and set a good example for my son. And so I've actually around the house, because normally I sleep with him in, I take naps, I do everything to again. My wife hates it, and I was joking around like, oh, it's no big deal, whatever, it's okay, I'm fine. Sweetie.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, and now with my son, like I have toothpicks around the house a lot less now because of that, and I'm like, yeah, that's silly. Because Kyung is going to see this, and he's going to have early childhood memories. Some of his first memories are going to be me having a toothpick in, and then he's going to be 5, 4, run around with a toothpick in his mouth and run around the house, and that's dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Yeah. So yes, I'm a lot more aware of it.
In this fight on Friday, you will not have a toothpick in your mouth.
I cannot.
Why?
I honestly forget.
What do you mean you forget?
I forget. I have a toothpick in. It's tucked away on the side.
How can it be tucked?
I'll just forget about it. It's just tucked like you tuck it in your cheek.
But it's pointy.
When
you put in your mouth guard. When you put in your you have a groove, really?
Well, yeah, it just tucks away. It fits in my.
Have you ever swallowed it?
Once, yeah. It was actually pretty funny. I I was home early from high school. I think I was in high school at the time, but I was home early from school, and I was I was scaring my mom. It's like, you scare your mom, you sneak up on her, she doesn't know you're home yet. And I had a toothpick in. She was coming down the stairs. I waited for her to turn the corner. She turned the corner, and I scared her, like, boo, ah. And she's like, oh, she started, she was startled, frightened, and I started laughing. It was funny, like, ah. And then I swallowed the toothpick as I was laughing. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then my mom got seriously scared then. Like, she went from like, oh, to like super scared, frightened. And that made me laugh even more. And then the toothpick went down. And
did you choke? Or you just swallowed it?
No, I choked for like maybe like 20 seconds or so. Ended up just swallowing it down, and that was it.
Never grappling, fighting. It's nothing bad has ever happened.
Not the first time, but one of the times I rolled around with John Crouch, he caught me in a rear naked, but I had my chin tucked,
Jesus.
so it wasn't like fully in on the rear naked. It was more of like a neck crank. We call it the Senior Aoki neck crank.
Okay.
We stole it from him.
Okay.
And he got me right here, and the toothpick got stuck in my chin. So I ended up tapping to John, and he's like, oh.
Via toothpick.
Yeah, and he was like, oh, dude, that was the Shinya Aoki neck crank. Did you feel it on your neck? It wasn't the jaw, right? It wasn't the pressure of the jaw. It was the pressure from the neck crank. And I was like, oh, no, it was tight. It was a good neck crank, but I didn't tap to that. I tapped because... And I took it out, and it was all bloodied. And he's like, "Oh, it's tapped because of the toothpick." And then he got a pretty good laugh out of that.
Laugh.
He loves that story.
Throw up.
Yeah.
So it's still up in the air. You might still rock.
I don't intend to. I don't ever intend to.
All right.
Especially now having Kyung. I don't want him seeing me in a fight with a toothpick in. Then he goes and plays football.
Yeah.
Or he goes to a wrestling match and has a toothpick in. God, I'd make my heart drop.
Yes. Is he going to be at the fight on Friday?
He's not. No.
Okay.
He's not.
He's back home.
Yeah.
With mom.
Back home, yeah.
Mom's staying home.
Mom is staying home this time. Mom's staying home. Her twin sister is graduating from college.
Oh.
Kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not her Bellator debut, but it's something.
It's a big deal.
What about your mom? I love when your mom's in the front row. Is she going to be there?
My mom will be there as always. My mom will be there
That's
as always.
a familiar face. I love that. All right. Well, you have to go, so I will let you go, my friend. This was a lot of fun.
I had a good time.
Yeah.
This was
you
pretty cool.
You actually say that a bit surprised, like you weren't expecting a good time.
No, I was expecting a good time.
Did they bring you here kicking and screaming?
No.
Okay.
No. But sometimes, you do the interviews and they're good. They're all fine.
They're mundane.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times can we talk about the contract? Yeah, you're a pioneer. You got paid a lot. Let's move on.
Exactly. I like it. I like your
Although
style.
I did address some of that. I will be honest, at the top I had to address it. But this is exciting. Your Bellator debut, it's this Friday on Spike TV. It's Benson Henderson, the former UFC lightweight champion, going up against Andrey Koreshkov, who we just found out about. He didn't even know his name this morning. Just kidding. He'll be fighting for the welterweight title. And then we're going to go for the lightweight title next, right?
Probably.
That's the plan?
Probably.
I think you'll be the first guy to have Bellator and UFC title. Is that a fact? NWC. Wow. History will be made on Friday night.
Yeah, absolutely will be.
That's exciting. Good luck, my man.
Thank
I'm
you.
happy for you. Congratulations on the deal, and check out Benson Henderson again Friday on Spike TV.